Oh, there we are. Yeah.
Are we on?
Yep.
Welcome to the BiCast,
Yeah.
podcast for the bisexual community. Thank you, everyone, for waiting. We're happy to be here, and we have, of course, Will and RJ with us, and we're going to be talking about mixed orientation relationships. Hi, guys. How are you?
Hi, great.
Hey, how are you?
Nice to be here. Nice to meet you.
Good to see you. So let's get started. We have some questions. We have Becca with us and John, and we have a guest host, M.
Hello.
Reportedly, RJ, Will's #1 fan. Hello.
Okay.
All right.
So, we sent some talking points along. RJ, did Will know you were bi in the beginning?
Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, he knew that I identified as not gay initially.
What, like initially?
Yeah, like since the very beginning.
No, I thought you were like straight. Like, because you told me that you were straight. That's how you identified.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, that's how I identified kind of at first, and then kind of shortly thereafter, still identified as bi after that, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very like Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, it was, but there was never, I mean, yeah, it went from, there wasn't a point where I identified as gay to Will. It was either straight in quotation marks,
Right.
or bi.
Okay.
Cool.
So how long was that process?
How long was the process? Gosh, I mean, it was I'd say about like a 5 to 6 month process,
Yeah, because
maybe.
we didn't even call each other boyfriends until like 4 months in. And then like after that, it was a sprint to you coming out. So it was like a 5 to 6 month. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd say the process culminated, I think, at 8 months once I finally kind of went home to Tampa and told my family about it. But yeah, it was. I mean, in my mind, I had been just, because I was brought up in the church and brought up in that whole doctrine of, oh, you can choose, what impulses to act on, which was kind of true in my case. I had always thought that, in the long run, I was going to end up, married to a woman, and why bother kind of going through the process of coming out as bi if it was only going to just cast doubt on my eventual, relationship that I was going to, get married in. But then come to realize that, oh, wait, this is probably going to be the one that I get married in, so I might as well come clean.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And you guys are engaged right now, aren't you?
Mhm.
Yep.
Exciting. I love that picture of you asking him. That was pretty cool.
Oh, yay.
I was completely oblivious.
So I'm sort of coming at it from the opposite point of view you're coming from. I'm bisexual and my partner's heterosexual.
Mm-hmm.
But what I want to ask you is, if you knew someone who was getting into a relationship like yours, one gay man, one bisexual, what would you want them to know?
That if I had to give them advice, I would say don't let yourself get hung up on labels, because then you're already setting yourself up for failure and all of these like false expectations of what your relationship should be. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is how much the other person that you're in a relationship with respects you.
It makes you happy.
Yeah, like they should. I mean, it's not their responsibility to make you happy,
Sure.
but they should be honest and they should respect you. And you shouldn't paint this picture ahead of time of them just based on however they identify sexually. If they are genuinely interested in you and they respect you and you trust them and there's honesty and there's communication, there should be no hang up over the sexuality.
Yeah, I think kind of feeding off of that, a piece of advice that I would give is just kind of keep the line of communication open and try to keep an open mind as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are, I mean, to a certain degree, there are going to be certain things that, if you're not experienced in this field, that you're going to have, I don't really fault Will for his initial concerns of like, oh, well, if you identify as bisexual, like, do you miss women? Do you miss being with women? Like that's an okay question, as long as I'm able to kind of communicate that. I mean, I may or may not miss being with a woman physically, but what's more important than that is what we have is more, is so much more, and I'm happy with that then.
Right.
Awesome. So, next question. Good answer. Next question. Relearning what sexuality and gender really is from the gay partner's perspective. It's a big shift in thinking to grasp sexual and gender fluidity, and probably one of the biggest hurdles. Will, did you have any problems understanding RJ's bisexuality?
I mean, honestly, like, I've never really given his sexuality much thought. I let him, because that's not really like, that's not my path and that's not my story to tell, and I kind of just let him go through the process of dealing with his own sexuality on his own terms, because his sexuality has absolutely nothing to do with what other people think. So at the end of the day, like, he whenever he came out to his parents, he came out as bi, and I don't even think that, like, I really asked you at that point, like, if you identified as bi or gay. I just kind of, like,
you're just like, whatever.
Yeah, I was like that from the. I mean, I'm still like that. It's just not. It's just a non. It doesn't matter to me. Non-issue. Yeah.
It was so weird. I think Will has been, one of my greatest, I don't even say mentors, but maybe role models as far as, don't live your life for anybody else. So, and I can say very, very, clearly that he does practice what he preaches, in the sense that he doesn't care, like, as long as I'm comfortable with the identity, he's like, okay.
Yeah, like, that's all that matters. Like, your sexuality is your thing. Are you comfortable with it? You are? Great. Cool.
Cool.
Yeah,
Let's
so I
hope they
suppose,
find that for everyone.
so I suppose next question is, do you still have to deal with RJ being seen as gay now? And do you find you have to come out over and over again because of it? Because RJ, people see you with Will, so they're just like, oh, okay, gay couple, sure.
Deal with, I think, is even, like, a strong term, as far as, for a vast majority of situations. I have to deal with people when they first meet me by myself, assuming that I'm straight, and I think that's the case for a lot of people that don't identify as straight. I have to deal with people assuming that I'm gay the minute they see me with Will, but practically that doesn't matter as much, because usually they'll just say, oh, I thought you were gay. I'm like, no, I'm bi, and most of the time people are like, oh, okay. And that's kind of the end of the discussion.
Yeah, I think what's probably the most problematic is whenever, people, it's perfectly understandable for people to assume that both of us are gay because we're two men together. But then whenever RJ defends himself and says, oh, but I'm bi, they'll come back and say, but you're in a gay relationship. And that it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter the fact that we're two men. Like, he still has his own identity and I still have my identity. And anyone trying to, like, say, but aren't you this? Like, that's not really, like, their argument, or any, like, that's not their position to say. So I think, like, out of all of the things, that would be probably the hardest.
Yeah, but really, even then, it's people almost never do that face to face. It's almost always, the faceless commenters that are like, shut up, you're not actually bi.
Right. There's so many people that are like, wait, you're just trying to hide behind your bisexuality because you don't want to admit that you're gay. Like, okay, it seems like there's a lot of internalized homophobia there.
And that to a certain extent is just, that's the internet for you. If they're not gonna give you shit for one thing, they're gonna give you shit for something else. So.
Yes, true, and I've always wondered about what you're hiding behind your bisexuality. It's I would think it'd be easier just to say, well, I'm gay or something.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I'm hiding behind the identity that's much more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's airtight logic.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to be a special kind of masochist to hide behind bisexual as an identity.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because so many people don't even like it. Everyone sees it as a stepping stone.
Yeah.
Sexuality.
I would much rather people think that I don't exist than.
Exactly.
Whereas I have, like, the bi-curious thing, because with the demi, I'm not like attracted to people unless I've got an emotional like relationship with them. And there's very few lesbian or even bi people around here for me to even remotely get a chance to get a connection with them. So I'm stuck saying, well, I've had a boyfriend for a year. I'm with him, but if a chance with a woman came up, I would consider it.
Right.
But because I don't have that opportunity, people just assume I'm definitely straight because I've had a boyfriend for a year.
Yeah,
So.
That's something I'm super happy that is getting some attention now, demisexual. And I think that, like, I don't know, I'm really excited to see how society reacts to that, because, I mean, I have a friend who, I had a long conversation with him about demisexuality, and it was that conversation with him that really opened my eyes to, like, oh my God, wow, there's like this whole other facet that I had never even known about, because, I mean, it's not me, but it's awesome. I'm just so happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is, because what I run across is there's a lot of, in my own experience, you know, with a certain person, they had no idea what asexuality was, and it was like a revelation to them to realize that they weren't like totally, you know, an alien because of it, and it was quite affirming for them. And you know, and I think that we're going to find out there are more people. And to me, I mean, and I think it is a true sexual orientation, and it really needs to have some more voice for it.
Yeah,
I'm trying. But, but that's the advantage of the internet, is you can meet other people, because even on like Facebook group, okay, there's 500 people from across the world, but so obviously there's going to be a lot more than that. But that's people who found that one Facebook group.
Yeah, little by little.
I mean, one of the greatest things is that I shared an article about what demisexuality is. And within the space of an hour, 3 people from my university contacted me saying, thank you for sharing this. I actually have a word for this before.
Exactly.
I thought I was a freak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I love when people, you know, find something that fits. I think it's...
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, totally. I mean, you know, there's definitely... I luckily was talking to Elio Cruz, how he kind of really helped put into perspective how much... Because, you know, I think in a perfect world, obviously, labels don't exist. But in order to get there, we have to, you know, recognize all these different labels first to be able to recognize that there are so many different possibilities that exist. And then eventually people will just kind of figure out that, okay... You know, there's, you know, none of this really helps anybody trying to put people in boxes, so why don't we just kind of don't bother with it at all?
Yeah. Right, exactly. I think we need labels for, you know, community gathering and you know, to help sort things out, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say that, you know, we need well, I don't call it labels, I call it, like, descriptions. So that we can form communities around like-minded people. And, you know, like, you know, bisexuality is an umbrella term. We should be fitting under, like, lots of these sub-labels of communities. And we need to do that because we have so many issues that are particular to people who are in the middle sexualities.
Right.
And unless we have places to go, communities, umbrellas that they buy on them, we won't know where to go.
Yeah, I think that's important too, because like we have these labels, and I think that it's important to. I think that's a great way of describing it, is that there are descriptions of like who you might be, but then there's so many. Whenever a kid goes through the coming out process, he's trying to find the cookie cutter that he fits to.
Or that at least most closely describes their experience.
Right, and
yeah, I think it should be the fact, okay, they're adjectives, they're part of you, but a bit like how you don't have your left-handed friend.
Right, exactly.
It's like, you need to, if, for instance, if you're getting scissors for people, like I'm in school, etc., it's you need to know they're left-handed, so you can get the correct scissors, and like you can use the correct pronouns, but it should be, oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, and then like you move on.
Yeah,
and then, not like we don't have like a whole conversation about left-handed people and how special they are. And no, it's just
anymore.
I could say just the other umbrella community. okay, except for at Pride and maybe a couple of events, you will never see twink and bears together in the same space. But both of those communities identify as gay.
Right.
Fair enough.
And,
Yeah.
you know, and so I mean, just like all, you know, just like all of the other sub-communities of LGBT, we have our own sub-community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Inside Spot. And you know, at the end of the day, you know, it's the LGBT, and we have to be like looking at our total community and what our needs are. And
Mhm.
you know, in terms of political action, in terms of, you know, social community, all those kind of things. I think we probably should move on now. You know, one of the things that you were talking about earlier is something we call orientation maintenance.
Orientation what? I'm sorry?
Orientation maintenance, which
Maintenance.
is like when you're, you know, when especially when you're bisexual in a same or opposite sex relationship, you get misidentified a lot, and so doing the orientational maintenance is basically telling people in the gay or straight community that you're identified as that no, I'm neither. I'm bisexual.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, things are different these days. It took me 11 years to come out to my partner, and that was 17 years ago. And
So happy 6th anniversary. Yeah.
7 years, you know,
Right.
yeah, we're coming on 28 years together.
Oh wow, mazel tov.
Nice.
So, and you know, we're Xers, so we don't believe in marriage.
I don't
I mean-
understand that,
But you know, things are a lot different today. I mean, and there are a lot of victories, and like it's great to see that younger people are able to come out, you know, as whatever gay, you know, gay, lesbian, bi, trans. You know, this is a world that, you know, when I was growing up, really didn't exist.
Mhm.
You know,
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, what's that? Spaceships landed. But you know, I think like there's
Uh-oh.
We're having a lot of sound issues with that. Em, can we move on to the next question?
yeah, I'm getting ready to right now. And so that was leading into that was actually leading into this question. Do you think it is important for bi-curious people to make their partner aware of their orientation early?
If I heard correctly, was the question: do you think it's important for bi and bi-curious people to divulge that to their partners?
Yes, early.
Okay. Early.
Early, yeah.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, I think in general, just, you know, honesty is generally just the best policy. You know, as much, you know, you know, vast majority of the difficulties we've had in our relationships around honesty. So I really feel like any difficulties that you may experience in the short term, bringing it up early kind of are vastly, you know, easier than anything you may experience in the long term, because you weren't completely honest.
Yeah, I hope that we get to a point where sexuality and like how people identify won't be an issue. You just really base what you have with someone on what you have with someone, and not like what the expectations are between two sexualities coming together. But I think in this day and age, it is important because people need to get used to the fact that there are other couples than like heterosexual and homosexual. Like there are other sexualities.
Oh, and there's other different kinds of relationship too. Like some people think that, you know, a three-way relationship is best for them. Some people
polyamorous, right.
some people are able to be polyamorous, and that's fine too. You know, just like every person is different, every relationship that works for that person is different. So Yeah, it's definitely, that is one thing that I do credit the part of the LGBT community for, is kind of bringing more awareness to the fact that the traditional model may not work for for everybody, but and it's just really all about what works between you and the people you care about.
And that's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think me and my boyfriend had it best thing, because first date, before we technically started dating, we just had a would you rather stuff, and one of his questions was actually, would you rather kiss a boy or a girl? Which, considering he was a boy, he seemed slightly confused when I hesitated, but he said he would then ask to kiss me, so I was happy.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I'll go back to honesty. For a lot of us in my generation, it was having kids that really forced the issue for us, because we felt that when you have a baby, you really have to be completely honest with that child, and your partner in that case, in this my generation, that kind of pushed many of us in our 20s, early 30s, when we started, having families to come out. I think that's really an important piece, is honesty. And some of the debates I get on in social media, come down to being honest, and don't you want us to really live our authentic selves, as opposed to living in a closet?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also being honest and open, and especially when you are raising a family, it also in turn teaches your offspring and your children, the kids that you raise, to be more open-minded too.
Yeah, I'm planning on having children. I was like, I will never hide my sexuality from my children. I won't, it will be age appropriate at every point.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
My main reason for that is I do not want my child to reach 13, 14, 15 and feel like there's anything they cannot talk to me about.
Right. Yeah, that's
Having
one.
that
Yeah.
as well is quite important to me.
Right, and if on the off chance they, are developing some sort of non-traditional attraction, you definitely want to be able to, teach them not only that they can talk about it, but that it's okay, that
teach them how to be safe and
Right.
all the other things parents will inevitably worry about.
Yes, obviously.
Well, it's also part. I mean, for us, it's part of living in a community that's pretty much, a rainbow hippie ghetto, and raising your children in a place where it's normal to have two moms or two dads, and that is fine. I do think getting away from a bad space and finding places where people are open and friendly is so important, especially for raising your families.
Yeah.
That is true, but at the same time, you also don't want to, have all of the, kind of open-minded people pool into one community and then leave behind other communities that are kind of devoid of any diversity whatsoever, because that then, now what if, God forbid, a child who is, demisexual or bisexual or trans or gay or anything, happens to live in one of those communities, then,
Yeah.
Yeah, because the community I'm in is pretty open, but then with the school I went to, it didn't even cause much of a shockwave when two of the female teachers got married. The biggest complaint was, so you mean there's two, which Mrs. whatever their surname is, are you talking about? It's there's two of them now. It's the older one, the younger one.
Right.
Yeah, what do we call them now?
Well, yeah, I know that struggle.
They've got a kid now, so
Okay.
it's one of those. I think eyebrows were raised because it was just oh, okay, we haven't had that before. Now, when's our maths homework due?
I mean, I experienced that just because I'm named after my dad, so that's.
but there is a, like at least in America, there is what we call the great sort, where we have the blue states becoming bluer and the red states becoming redder, and people are like sorting themselves in these spaces where they feel comfortable in.
Mm.
Oh.
Oh wait, is his connection bad?
Yeah, he's been muted.
Okay. Oh well, I guess yeah, that is he was talking about I guess the increased polarization kind of through isolation, which is definitely a factor, but I also feel like at the same time we do live in a time that because information technology and all that makes communication on such a mass level so possible. Even when you have those very isolated pockets of kind of closed-minded thinking, there's still ways to kind of infiltrate and send messages of kind of peace and love and tolerance in there. So.
Oh yeah. Back in the day, I mean, when a young gay person would come into the community, we would say that they came in off the first boat from West Virginia, which, of course, a boat was a joke, but and integrating them, and I think of song YMCA, which was like gathering ghetto community, the ghetto gay community, which is kind of breaking down now, but there is still the places, even in in this city. I mean, with the millions that we have, there are places that are friendly and there are places that are not. In a workplace, you're going to find that people come from all over the place, and you have to deal with that. Sending my kid off to college, he found very different world views within his own community there, and but you also have to have a base, and it's really hard if you're a queer kid living in a really red state, ultra conservative place. You have the internet. You don't really have more than a few friends at best. Um, but that's something that I know we have to do better at, is to
Okay.
Get
So,
down to places in this, get to places in the South where it is harder.
okay, so let's move on. We're getting close to being over an hour, or getting close to an hour. Becca, next question, please.
All right.
Next question. Let me see. As far as sorry, I'm just looking at this. My dyslexia doesn't like me today. So we've been talking a lot about different issues, but what, from your point of view, is sort of the most persistent, most difficult issue to sort of deal with?
I mean, amongst you're talking about within our relationship or just in general?
Yeah, as
within your relationship with other people, just in general.
Yeah.
I really the only kind of struggle in our relationship that has been due to the fact that we're mixed orientation was really just kind of at the beginning, and the fact that I would remark, oh, that girl's hot, and he would just be kind of a little bit, I don't want to even say weirded out, but he would just be kind of he would just respond differently than if I were to say that guy is hot, because the minute I say a guy is hot, he can either say, "Oh yes, he is," or "What are you talking about? Are you crazy?" We can at least that's a shared experience that we can have. Whereas if I remark on the attractiveness of a girl, he's just kind of like, "Okay, well if you say so."
Yeah. I mean, the conversation kind of would always die right there, because I didn't really have much to add. But I don't know. I don't think that's been the most difficult and persistent issue. That was there at the very beginning when.
But I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's been precisely sort of having to do with the fact that we're a mixed orientation relationship.
I would say it was because it's from people that just bi erasure in general, and people always trying to get you to admit to them because they think that they're going to be the one that understands you the best, and like, and get you to come around and say that you're actually gay.
Right.
Like, so many people are like, but really, are you bi? But you're with Will. Like, are you bi? And you're just like, stop trying to.
But even that, I don't even consider that a problem within our relationship. I just consider that a greater problem at large.
No.
And I don't even, and what's so like silly to me about that sort of tactic or that behavior is to just, what do you expect? Do you expect me to just be like, oh my God, you're right. I've been kidding myself all along, and then did like break out into song or something about how you've saved me. You
so
commenter.
Happy I had this conversation.
Oh, thank God! You
Not knowing myself.
The spell has been broken.
So,
what do you expect?
Like with honestly, like within our relationship, our sexualities have very, very little sway over like how he and I go about our day-to-day life. At the end of the day, like, I mean, I guess from my perspective as a gay guy, I could date a gay guy, I could date a bi guy, I could date someone that identifies as straight as long as they like respect me and they're honest with me. It doesn't like, to me, that just doesn't matter to me.
I do think that's part of I think why Will is just doesn't really care as much. Is like, I think, you came from a community where any guy that you fooled around with identified as straight.
Right.
You're like, whatever.
It didn't bother me. Like, whatever. It's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to like have you like go through the motions on figuring out how you want to identify.
Yeah, wherever blows your skirt up. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, RJ, how did you come out to your friends who thought you were straight? And did it cause the issue with exes?
I guess there's really only one ex. Actually, none of the exes that I still kept in contact with had any kind of, a vast majority of my friends, I didn't even say I am this. I just said I'm dating Will, and I kind of let people draw their own conclusion from there. And then anyone who asked, I made sure to correct them. But other than that, what they think is, whatever. I don't really concern myself too much with that. If they misidentify me, then sure, I'm going to correct them. But other than that, I don't really, what they think doesn't really have much to do with me.
So like, basically, you just don't give a shit, right?
Yeah, or I try not to as much as possible. There's been only
one ex, and she like didn't care, and the one ex that that really meant anything.
Yeah, the one ex that I actually like was serious at all with. What was so funny is we're out. I told her after, she was actually the one that took me out to a bar right after the night I came out to my parents. She's like, you need to get out of the house. Come on, come with me. Let's go to the bar. And she just is like, whatever, could have, the joke she said was could have fooled me, but and then at the and then I don't even think we even had a conversation as far as like how do you identify, because I think she knew that like that I wasn't phoning it in with her, that I actually was invested in the relationship. So I think she just knew.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I've been fortunate enough to just I guess to gravitate towards people that tend to be a little bit more relaxed and open-minded about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You're pretty lucky. A lot of people don't have that opportunity to be around that kind of environment.
So right.
And that's why, I don't know, I think like with the position that we have with our social media presence, it's really important that we illustrate that RJ is bi, I'm gay, and it doesn't matter.
It does not matter.
Look at like how we live our life, and look at how like the fact that he's bi and I'm gay doesn't affect how we raise our dog, or the fact that I really like Chipotle, or it doesn't like it comes.
You like video games and I like movies.
Right, like it literally has like no effect on our life. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that. It has a very, very, very small effect on our life.
I think also part of it too has to deal with the fact that we are like committed and exclusive. I think that because all I really have to do is kind of just demonstrate that I'm committed to this, that it helps I guess, or maybe it does kind of put your mind at ease, or helps kind of reassure that has anything to do with it, or
No.
no, you don't think that?
No.
No.
Okay.
I mean, like, I would expect that from anyone. So
Right.
it had like I don't think that it really had anything to do with your bi. It really is like you telling yourself that you have brown eyes. And I'm like, okay, like if that's what you believe about yourself, it has like what you believe about yourself should have no bearing on what I think, or what I no reverse that. What I think should have absolutely no bearing on how you identify. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah,
I
that's
ask you
like-
for guidance.
right.
I want the words "our sexuality does not affect how we raise our dog" on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
On my t-shirt.
Like literally the only that and I try to like perpetuate this notion that the only instance where sexuality matters is if you're having sex with someone. And like if you're not having sex with someone, it doesn't matter how they sit across from you when they're having coffee or how they walk past you on the street. Like literally it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no inherent traits to each sexual orientation. We are just really basically people, and one orientation doesn't make us like really good at decorating or whatever, you know.
I wish.
Yeah, I
that, like,
wish.
I wish I
Yeah.
could like blade and have like all the strengths of gayness and all the strengths of straightness and just to combine into like a superhuman. Oh my god, that'd be amazing.
Wouldn't it? Yeah.
Maybe that's why there's bi-erasure and biphobia, because they're scared we are like these superhuman.
Yeah, like, they have everything. That's like the biggest loophole. Like we are so intimidated by that.
I would
I
say
can
that
lift weights and decorate.
Oh no, that's my brother who's like I say he's got a girlfriend. To my knowledge, she's completely straight. I was trying on dresses for prom, and I got a text from him saying, "What colour do you want in the living room?" And I got a text 5 minutes later going, "I'm painting it now. So pick a colour." And it's like the living room hasn't been painted in a decade or two, so it needed painting. But he was in between his rugby matches, he was like, "Okay, fine, I'm going to go and paint the living room."
Sounds like a winner.
Lock that stud down.
I would say our biggest superpower as a bisexual is that we can see both worlds, you know, the gay and the straight world, and we're kind of at best we're ambassador of both worlds.
Yes.
It is nice to be able to kind of shift focus and like, you know, be in a conversation with a bunch of straight guys talking about like, oh, how hot Scarlett Johansson is or whatever in a movie, and then shift to, you know, a conversation with a bunch of gay guys about how Bradley Cooper or Chris Evans or Chris Hemsworth, take your pick, you know. That it does make the pool of possible conversation topics a bit bigger, but that's also, you know, dual identity has always kind of been my thing, as far as like I am Cuban but I'm Caucasian. I am
Dual identity, like it's like some kind of like Batman
chimerism, yeah, basically. Like, well, there's a reason why, you know, the Griffin tattoo on my back is, you know, the first one that I got is because I've always, you know, shape shifting and like dual identity, you know, has always been like a thing that I've done, just sort of adapting to my surroundings, but.
Mm-hmm. So, Em, can we move on to the next question?
Yep. So, Will, was it easy to adjust to being with a guy who also openly found women attractive, or did you get caught off guard by some of RJ's comments? You kind of answered this already, but.
Yeah, I guess like whenever he would admire other women, and I don't like, I'm not one of those people in a relationship that gets incredibly jealous whenever he happens to look at another person and admire him, because I do the exact same thing, and I mean, humans are humans. I don't think that we should stifle like those instincts and shame ourselves almost for admiring other people. I couldn't really empathize with him, so that caused a little bit of awkwardness, but it wasn't as if I was ever angry or
Yeah, it never kind of
escalated.
zero converted, you know, where it's like, you know, it never converted into the anger like it does with some people.
Right. It was almost like someone who knows astrophysics talking to me about something that I just don't understand. And I'm just like, okay, like I can't really talk about it because I don't really have much experience in that department. But
I've got an exam on astrophysics in June. I'm not looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, good luck with that.
There are also there are instances where friends of yours, female friends of yours, where you're like, she is a beautiful woman.
Oh well, yeah. Well, and that's like different than like lustful thoughts.
Oh, true.
You know?
Yeah.
I can
true.
appreciate beauty, but I mean, when it comes to like lustful thoughts, I'm like, no.
That's the same with demisexuality in some ways. It's kind of like, yes, I can recognise they're good looking, but and like I say, but would I actually want to be like in bed with them or even just kiss them? It's like, no, kissing's kind of like borderline, but it's more just like, do I want to be in bed with them?
Yeah, exactly.
You're the opposite of Connor. Yeah, the opposite of Connor Walsh in How to Get Away with Murder, basically.
Oh.
There's a great quote. I think it was John Barrowman who said first, "I'm gay, not blind."
Oh, true.
Yeah, I love John Barrowman. I got to see him live. It was a good evening.
But you don't want to shame blind people.
Yeah, but like
admiring aesthetic beauty, that's there's nothing. Everybody can do that, and I think we all should learn how to do that.
Yeah, but I think,
Yeah,
I do think what he was getting at though was I can look at something and see it and appreciate it for what it is. That doesn't necessarily, if I look at a woman and see her and appreciate that, I want to sleep with her.
Right.
I think that was the point he was making, but you know what John Barrowman's like, he can be very flippant in his comments, which is most of his charm, granted.
Yeah. All right, so really the last question, and you kind of answered this one too already. How about your family and friends, and how has the gay community reacted? I think the question I want to ask here is, have you had any kind of like ostracization from the community or your family?
Ostracization. Yeah, I think as far as like my mom, I can only speak on my mom's behalf. She just kind of said like, oh, RJ's bi? Okay, are you happy? Okay, and like left it at that. And that's all that she really cares about. So whenever she talks about our relationship to other people, she is very sensitive to the fact that says like Will's gay, RJ's bi, they're together, and I don't think that my mom ever like bothers trying to like coach people. She just like says it as it is.
Your mom has no patience.
And then she's like, if they don't get it, she's like, okay, I'm moving on. Like I don't, I have a whole day of things I need to do. I can't like sit here and give a lecture on sexuality to people.
Go Google. Go Google it.
I don't think I was like. It was hard because when I first tried to come out to my parents, it was difficult because they definitely couldn't wrap their heads around the bisexual part because they were still of the mindset that you had to choose one or the other. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, my brother was the one that kind of said to them, like, what difference does it make? He's in a gay relationship or he's in a same-sex relationship, so whatever, as long as you're okay with that, then that's fine. I know that my parents have seen, all my stuff, talking about bisexuality, but it's not, we haven't really discussed it as far as, like, I haven't really kind of checked in with them and be like, do you think that bisexuality is a thing? Do you think? But at the same time, they see that I've been happily in this relationship for years and years and years, and to a certain extent, they're just like, well, whatever, as long as he's happy. And then as far as the gay community goes, I've gotten a little bit of pushback as far, in person it's more in the form of a question than it is, having people out or straight up trying to deny the fact that, identify the way that I do. It's more just like, well, if you're gonna commit to a man, then why not just,
go ahead and like say
why not just say that you're gay, and then then that's a conversation that I can choose to have or not have.
And that's so stupid though, because it's like you're wearing a baseball hat. Why don't you just go ahead and admit to being a boy? Like you're oversimplifying like a very complex part of someone.
It's only online really that I get the people that flat out just try to say like, shut up, you're wrong.
So you have like this like the difference between having a genuine like relationship in person with someone who actually gives a crap about like the conversation at hand, or the online community, which is, you reach more people, but then that anonymity brings out the worst, and people like they just say the most horrible things about RJ identifying as bi. But
and that's, I mean, that the root cause of that is I'm sure we could spend, or we have already at least spent a whole episode discussing that. But
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Anything anybody like to add right now?
No, I was just going to ask if there was anything you two would like to sort of open up the floor to you, and anything you want to say at all, sort of anything you want to add.
Yeah, that, I don't know. I hope that like we have illustrated through like talking about this how personal sexuality is, and how you don't feel like you should have any pressure from other people to identify a certain way, because at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself, and it's no one else's job to make you happy. And if you just own your happiness and learn to, I don't know, stick to your guns and do some self-exploration, I feel like, and kind of like block out all of the noise of what everyone else happens to think, then things will start to make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
What he said.
Yeah, all the links will be provided on the site. And what I'll say about your last comment was, there is this idea of political gayness and political lesbianism, and I think that comes from the oppression of the LGBT community, is that for so long there's just been so much attack, and there's this pressure, if you're in a same-sex relationship and bisexual, to identify as gay or lesbian because of the political ramifications.
Sure.
And I think we have to say and show that our community has different issues and different problems, as well as having some of the same problems as gay and lesbian people have, and to say we have to be honored too.
Oh yeah, and I don't think, really honestly, I don't see any problem, especially as far as us being politically active with our relationship. I really don't see how I identify affects that, really, because all what we're saying is that our relationship is valid and deserves all the same rights and recognitions as a heterosexual one. That is the case regardless of how either of us identify.
Right. Exactly.
There was just one thing sort of before we finish, well, two things I wanted to say. That just from listening to the two of you, I really love your attitude. It's brilliant. You just sort of like, the world doesn't like it, screw them as well. Or not, because obviously the pair of you.
Yeah.
And also, when I first sort of came into the community, especially into the community of bisexuals in relationships, I had the impression that there was kind of a disparity between those in relationships that appeared homosexual and those that were in relationships that appear heterosexual. And yeah, we've got a few issues that the others don't have. But what I've really found from sort of listening to you two for the last hour or however long it's been is actually how much we have in common.
Yeah.
And it's actually that's really opened my eyes to a lot of it, because there's a lot of things I wasn't aware of.
Yeah,
Oh,
exciting.
thanks. Yeah,
Awesome.
we try. It's and I will say that kind of not giving a shit what other people think mindset. It can be a bit challenging at first, but I think it's a matter of just realizing that when you care too much about what other people think, it almost makes it almost impossible for you to be happy.
Right.
And that's I think it's once you manage to get a taste of that, then there's no going back.
Yeah, because I know I live by the people who matter don't the people who matter don't mind.
The people who mind don't matter. Yep.
Yeah. So always.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
I think we're good.
Nope, I think we're good.
Our dog is cute, and we're sorry that he's been making noise in the background.
I've been trying to keep him quiet.
All right. If you don't mind staying on as soon as we stop broadcasting, we'll just do a little review. And I just want to tell everybody out there, thank you for watching. And remember, you are not wrong, you're not broken, and you are not alone. You are a human being, and you are bisexual, or gay, or pansexual, or demisexual. But you're great human beings anyway. So thank you all for watching and listening. Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Really, dummy?